Hi Libra, welcome to your January 2017 love reading. It's Raina here. As you can see, I have laid out the cards already. I am starting over again. I had, there was a train that went by. It was very noisy. And I think it was just distracting me because I was kind of rambling on and on with no real meaning. So I'm going to just begin again. I think sometimes that's the best policy. Sometimes it's good just to look at the spread before you start opening your mouth. But this was the overall card, the Emperor. And this card is associated with Aries. So it could be somebody who's an Aries, but because of the attributes of the Emperor, I see it more as a Capricorn. So, take it for what it's worth. The qualities of this person is that they are, in a position of authority. The Emperor is associated particularly with any law enforcement or military people, but I think that it could also be associated with the legal profession, especially like a judge who is really in charge of making the decisions. This is the kind of person who is very black and white about life, and they tend to have, and this is like what I was saying about a cop or something like that, where they say, okay, this is right and this is wrong, this is the law. And, sometimes I think people like that hide behind the law because, life isn't black and white. There are nuances. Not everything is an absolute. Someone can steal, but they may be doing so to keep alive, and it's not the same as if somebody is just doing it because they want to profit from it. You can't hold that in the same light. I mean, at least that doesn't make sense to me. So the same thing applies to anything that is done. Sometimes people have affairs and they're not, it's not the greatest idea because it's not dealing, honestly with the problem head on, and it's also deceptive. But there are some instances, it may be in the vast minority, where the person if you're married and the other person is very abusive, that lover or that, the partner on the side can be a lifeline for the person to kind of step over into, into a new life. And it can give them that sense of self-worth that they lack, having somebody reflect positive attributes to you when you feel like lower than dirt is sometimes very helpful. But I don't believe in affairs. I think that overall, if you're not in a very kind of a hopeless situation, then you should act like an adult and just, be honest about what's going on. But as I say, the Emperor shows that, a personality type that is very rigid in their thinking. Okay? So is this a person in your life that you're dealing with? Or are you consulting a lawyer because of some kind of a situation? Because we have in the past the card of being stabbed in the back, and in a romantic relationship, it's usually because of cheating or, some kind of a deception. Feeling like you're defeated, feeling like you're a victim, feeling victimized. And that's a very weak feeling. And so either you're consulting someone to get out of it, or you're dealing, maybe you're trying to handle the emotional feelings that are coming up by having some sort of relationship. But is it something that's going to lead to something positive? When people run out after they have been treated really badly and just start another relationship, sometimes it's just to try to make themselves feel better, to feel like they're okay, but it really isn't good for them overall because they're only prolonging the inevitable, which is, what did I contribute to that failure of that relationship? It's easy to demonize the person who cheated or who was abusive. But what did how did I become an energetic match to this? Not because we should blame victims, but to get rid of the idea of the victim. Being a victim is not a good place to be. So if you have felt like the Ten of Swords, it may give you a sense of identity, but it doesn't give you a sense of empowerment, and then that's a huge gap. I will say that the Ten of Swords could relate to a negative relationship with an air sign. So could have been a Gemini or a fellow Libran or an Aquarius individual. Maybe you were with them then, and now you're with an Aries person. But what's happening or what's coming in is the Tower card. So there's some revelation to be had. It could be, now here's a possibility, is that if you're dating somebody new, that you find out something surprising about them. Maybe they were misrepresenting themselves. We're having a full moon on the 12th of January in Cancer. Cancer is your 10th house of career. So this can be very good for your career, but it could, if you had some kind of a situation with any kind of an office romance, maybe something will be revealed, with you. Maybe the emperor's your boss and you're having an affair with your boss, but it sounds like it's going to be exposed if you don't watch out. So the higher perspective is the Four of Cups. Typically, I see this as the card of meh, the card of disinterest and dissatisfaction. So, in this type of scenario, the typical thing that I go to is if you were in a relationship where you feel like you were victimized in that relationship, the spiritual message is you weren't happy anyway. Yes, it is a blow to the ego when someone you find out that your partner is having an affair, and all of a sudden that person becomes desirable because somebody else is with them. It's one of those deals where you really weren't that into that person until someone else was that into him or her, and then all of a sudden they became desirable. And that's human nature, but it's also kind of childish, because I remember doing that when I was a kid. You don't care about a certain toy, and then someone else grabs it, and then all of a sudden you want it. The other thing about the Four of Cups is it represents dissatisfaction in general. So maybe your life doesn't feel like it's exciting, juicy enough, and you're trying to get your needs met for your life through affairs. And I don't mean like that you're cheating with anyone necessarily. Could be, but it doesn't have to be. That you're going from relationship to relationship looking for that, spark of the hot and heavy quality of a relationship, especially when it's first starting, to kind of jumpstart your life or to pump it up, and it really doesn't have the power to do that. Also, Libra is a sign that tends to seek itself through the relationship. And part of that is what you are to do, because you are the ruler of the 7th house of committed partnerships. So it's totally in alignment with you to have a committed partner. The only thing is, no one should ever make another person the central part of their existence. Now, obviously, that's just my opinion. I'm not, my opinion is just as valuable as anybody else's, but not more valuable. And so you may disagree with me on that, but I feel that it's a very treacherous place to be in, because life is subject to change. People sometimes do things that you don't want them to do. They change their mind about whether or not they want to be in a particular relationship. And if you have everything, all your stakes on one thing, the chances of it going kaput are even greater, because it just seems like the universe works that way. Anything that we put too much importance on may be taken away in order for us to see that it's not the ultimate important thing in our lives. What crosses you is the Magician card. So this suggests to me that you have a challenge with self-empowerment at this time, and that this is something you can make in the upright position if you change your attitude. It really just boils down to attitude, I feel like 99% of the time. The Magician card is about stepping into self-mastery and self-empowerment. And in relationships, it means that you don't give up you to be part of us, or the two of you. And the codependency is something that Librans have to watch out for, and they can do it. Any sign can write the challenges that they have in their particular astrological makeup. It just takes conscious effort, and because you have a natural affinity to be part of a couplehood, you may not see that as ever problematic. And so I'm just telling you that so that you can realize how disempowering, because the Magician is all about being empowered, and in the challenge position, it means that you have allowed yourself, and again, back to that Ten of Swords, to feel that someone can do something to you. And, the Tower is actually a very good way to kind of wake you up and let you see that, yes, you are, the only one you're the only one in charge of your own life. Nobody else, it's not their purpose to be there to boost you up and to make sure that you feel good about yourself. And it's also not their job to not leave you and to go to somebody else. Chances are, if you present yourself as a victim and as overly dependent on a partner, it will make it that much harder to find someone who is really worthwhile, because what will happen is you will attract people who are controlling. People who are controlling love a good victim. They love people who are willing to just submit to their authority, and that goes back to the Emperor card. And yet, if you determine, all it takes is setting your intention. I am now, from this day, not going to tolerate anyone who attempts to control me in any way. Other people have the right to tell me their opinion of something I'm doing, or something that I'm wearing, given Libra, with the physical appearance. They can do that too if they want to, but they don't have the right to control me and tell me that if I don't wear a certain type of clothing that they're going to leave, or that they're going to punish me in some way by leaving, or just getting intimidating. I'm not going to be with such a person. And once you really have set your intention in your mind, and you will carry it out, because you will be committed to that. It's hard to get Librans to commit to things because they tend to see all sides of an issue. So this may be hard for you to affirm something because you're like, well, I'm not really sure. And that's something that you have to work on, is being more certain about your what you like and what you don't like, what you want in your life and what you don't want. The advice is the World card. This is about, I would say this is the last card of the Major Arcana. So tie up loose ends. If you're in a marriage and it's not working out, and you're thinking about consulting a lawyer, going to court, but you're kind of on the fence, and there's somebody else that you're interested in, first things first, take care of those things that are impacting you right now. You know, if you have a marriage that is, you know, on its last legs, as evidenced by the Four of Cups, you're not into it. Maybe there's been infidelity. Maybe there have been, somehow you feel like the other person let you down and you're just done. Because the 10 is the end of a cycle, so you might be done. And you might have been done for a while now, but you just haven't gotten around to it. You have to, the Tower says that even if you drag your feet, something may, you know, come up that, you know, shakes you into action or into the realization that everything is, you know, it's changed, and it's not, you know, it is what it is. It's not going to be what you want it to be. Okay. And the World card is also about success. So it's not like, you know, maybe the card right above it is the 10 of Swords, and maybe you felt like you were a loser because of something that happened. And maybe it really did affect your self-esteem negatively, as often happens when people get divorced. I mean, get cheated on, for instance. They can start to question everything about their lovability, their attractiveness, what have you. And the World card is about you're a divine, you know, expression of God, source energy. There's nothing about you that is wrong. The only thing that is quote unquote wrong is your perception of yourself, and you are playing small if you feel like somebody else can determine your value because they chose somebody else over you, you know. And that's just one example. I do tend to think that the betrayal will be on that level, since this is a love reading. I mean, it's kind of logical, isn't it? So that's why I'm going off on that tangent. And I realize that because this is a general reading, it may not apply to all Librans. So please, you know, take that into consideration. Hopefully some of the cards resonate with you, if not all of them. And I do have private readings if you want something where I'm also pulling up your birth chart, because that's, I actually, in my love readings, I concentrate on your birth chart, not on the tarot. The tarot is symbolic, and I feel like, you know, life is just symbolic. You know, the things that we try to understand intellectually are very, they're, you know, it's kind of futile to try to deal with this world on an intellectual level. It's funny that I'm saying that, because you're, you know, you're an air sign, so you probably can understand what I'm saying, of trying to figure, to rationalize things, or to, you know, when I say intellectualize, I mean trying to analyze them and try to find out, why is this thing happening? Even with psychoanalysis, it can get really silly, because you're talking about, it's not going to change anything by analyzing it. You know, it's kind of like if you see a dead butterfly and you take it under a microscope and you try to like see, okay, well, how did it die? It doesn't stop it from being dead, you know? And so when something bad happens and you try to analyze it, you know, it doesn't stop it from being true. But sometimes people aren't, it's not that they're trying to make it go away, but they're trying to make themselves okay as a result. Like saying, it's really not me, why, you know, I'm not really an unlovable person, why this person cheated on me. And that's understandable, and that is actually, I think, a good reason to go that route. But I prefer to look at it from a spiritual point of view than a psychological one, because any, you know, psychological reaction that we have is, I feel it's connected to, could be connected to a past life. I mean, people have phobias that have no connection to this lifetime. And there's actually, I think it was Brian Weiss or Weiss, who, you know, he was a psychiatrist, and he you know, he got into hypnotherapy, and he told his patient, go back to where that pain in your shoulder originated from, because he was trying to find some childhood trauma or something, and I think even on the physical level of why it happened. And they went back to ancient Egypt or something. They got pierced in the shoulder with a sword. And that's when he realized that there was more than one lifetime. And so here's a psychiatrist who's kind of like in this very practical field, like going off into this stuff that is not, you can't even really prove it, you know. Sometimes people have, you know, in their what do you call them, regressions, they have named the actual person that they were, and you know, you can look it up historically, but there are many skeptics who would not even take that as truth. But you have to get beyond, you know, the need to prove something, and so it's really, you know, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day why something is happening. But what I'm trying to say is that when you can just look at yourself from the world card perspective of, you know, I am, these are my successes. I'm focused on this, but I'm not looking at these things. Then you will start to understand how much more of a valuable person you are. And understand that any choice that somebody else makes that is for someone other than you is based upon their own needs at the time. And it doesn't say anything about you. Just like if somebody liked you and you weren't really that into them and you chose somebody else, it doesn't mean that you think that person is repulsive. So see the victory in this in some way, or the victory in your life. Maybe your career is doing well. Maybe you're not expressing gratitude enough for your victories. And also tie up loose ends. The outcome is the Six of Cups. Now, whether this could be somebody that comes in who is a soulmate connection. Sometimes this has a childhood connection or a connection from the past. We do have a Mercury retrograde happening. Oh, what house is that going to be for you? It's the 4th house. So yeah, I mean, that's especially the 4th house and the 6 of Cups are connected because of the home aspect. So that could be in your family of origin. If you go home for Christmas, maybe you will run into someone from high school or elementary school, but this could be online that this occurs. It could be your high school sweetheart or somebody, just maybe it was a friend that you had, or maybe you're an old girlfriend, you know, a mutual friend of yours that was a platonic friend. And it's like, wow, you know, this person all of a sudden came into my life. Mercury retrogrades are a time when things can get revisited. You can get a communication from someone from the past. So just keep an eye out for that. But it's a wonderful card to end the reading because it's speaking of a pure relationship. Maybe you didn't have a pure relationship. Maybe your relationship was tainted in some way by ulterior motives on both of your parts. Maybe you were not really into that person, but maybe you married them because you know, you were pregnant, or maybe you turned 30 and you thought, I got to marry the next person that shows an interest. You would be surprised that people, what kind of motivations they have for getting married or for getting involved seriously with somebody. Sometimes it's not just this conscious decision in that, with that intention of wanting to be with somebody that you're just madly in love with. Sometimes it's pragmatic. And this 6 of Cups is something that is going to be on the soul level. This could be with an actual water sign. So a Cancer, Scorpio, or a Pisces. So we'll see what happens, Libra. I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like a private reading, please click on the link below. Otherwise, have a very romantic January. Bye.